All right, so hello and welcome everyone to another exciting tech talk on how Umicore optimized staff capabilities with the Competency Matrix by our SAP partner Flexso. I'm Caroline Spanier and I'm your moderator for this session. Before we start, please be aware that this session will be recorded. You can ask your questions already during the presentation via the Q&A tool, and they will be answered at the end of the presentation. With me today is Thomas Wolfs, who has been active for the past 7 years as a technical SAP consultant at Flexso Digital. He is responsible for the technical team behind the Flexso productized extensions. And I have Bart van Hove with me, who is working as a competence lead at Flexso for People. Bart is engaged in all the aspects of the Flexso productized extension life cycle and has gained a broad insight in the best practices with HR, how to apply them using SAP SuccessFactors, and how to enrich SAP SuccessFactors with custom extensions. And with that, I would like to directly hand over to you, Bart.
Thank you. And good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Thomas and I are going to take you in the next 15 minutes through, let's say, a very interesting topic on competency management, supported by the case that we, let's say, delivered with Umicore, our customer. We'll obviously have a look into how the competency matrix looks and how it works under the hood. Just a very quick positioning. Flexso is SAP Gold partner based out of Belgium, the Netherlands and Austria, moving into other territories as well. We support, as one of the many customers in our portfolio, Umicore. Within Umicore, we really focused on the division of, let's say, the rechargeable battery materials. So you have to envisage the context of this within the electrical car evolution, where there is obviously a big expansion into factories and requirements within the let's say, the world. Through our extension portfolio, we provided Umicore with an answer to the challenge that they had, which was the competency matrix. Next to that, we have and are developing additional extensions on top of SuccessFactors. Which is obviously supported by the whole standardize versus differentiate logic. As App House network partners, we're really into this topic, where we are enhancing SuccessFactors with custom built solutions on top of the business technology platform. I'm going to very quickly go through let's say the case at Umicore, just again to have a bit of the context. So what were the business challenges at Umicore? As I mentioned, within the expanding market of rechargeable batteries, Umicore is growing and they need to support a lot of employees and etc. to be professional in their job, to increase the performance within the factories. New factories are being built, are being updated, which also means a lot of people need to be trained and need to be kept up to speed with, let's say, the current or the changing business requirements. It's hazardous material, so safety is always important. And as there is a lot of movement within the company, transparency on who can do what is of the utmost importance. So how did Umicore address these challenges? They put in place a consistent approach, leveraging a centralized, uniform, integrated approach, no longer a scattered Excel-based approach. Obviously, as a, let's say, long-standing SAP customer, they are leveraging the capabilities they have either within SuccessFactors or through partner extensions. And the end result is obviously that it needs to be a user-friendly tool in order to maximize the support on the factory floor. The process before, as I mentioned, was really unconnected, departmental, very scattered, which meant there was no complete holistic view. But afterwards, we obviously came to a central and uniform situation based on SuccessFactors, connected with SuccessFactors learning, providing a clear and current view on staff capabilities, which allow, again, a good resource planning to be a lot more flexible. So there are a lot of benefits from an IT perspective. Obviously, working through a SaaS-based approach with a partner has a lot of advantages. The business obviously benefits from this, as new people are getting up to speed a lot quicker, etc. And employees themselves are obviously also much more guided in the way through maximizing their potential within the organization. So how does the competency matrix look like? It doesn't look like this one. This is a different matrix. The one that we're talking about is obviously the competency matrix from Flexso, which is also, as we were invited into this session, also one of the Innovation Award winners last year. So together with Umicore, the competency matrix solution has won the Innovation Awards. So how does it work? This is a bit of the overview. Users can start from SuccessFactors homepage by clicking on a tile. Afterwards, they come onto the Launchpad, which will give them access to either 2 or 4 different screens, whether they are a manager or an employee. So the manager will have access to the group views. The employee only has access to the individual views. Manager obviously can also look into individual views, leveraging those screens. We'll be going through the different screens one by one. Maybe just to mention, as we build the SuccessFactors extensions, we always leverage SuccessFactors also as the database. So the MDF framework is really our database, which also gives additional advantages for the customer, for the end users, for the admin users, to leverage, let's say, an interface and capabilities that they are already familiar with. Let's take it step by step. So maybe first, as a manager, if I log in, I just want to have a quick snap overview of where is some of my people with regards to the proficiency in their roles. So we can support multiple roles and different levels of proficiency targets that could be required. So here I can just have a snapshot, really easy to see what's going on, what requires my attention. We recently introduced a report view, which obviously summarizes, again, based on different filters, the necessary information for me in really specific KPIs or elements that I need to track. The heart of the solution is the competency matrix, is the matrix view, the grid view that we designed, which has the people versus the competencies. And obviously each time also grouped per current role in the organization. And the little icons that you see depict or show the proficiency that somebody has or the compliance that somebody has within a certain qualification. Could be knowledge, could be skill, could be a certification, etc. If you click on one of those little icons, typically an Excel-based view, you will get a pop-up to make an assessment on that particular qualification. Could be that somebody has a certain role target that they need to achieve, and hence they have a gap when you perform a certain, let's say, assessment. Could also be that you set a personal target, because maybe some person differs from everybody else within that role. A big important element is that we track the history. So we can also show evidence towards audits to make sure that, for example, somebody was proficient at a given point in time. We can do pretty much the same thing for both skills, so the life cycle based competencies, as well as certifications. So certifications, being compliant or uncompliant, expiring, etc. All of that information really is captured in the matrix itself. However, we have a third element, which is really about the LMS-based curricula. So we also include that information into the matrix. If we drill down to an individual level, again, the same information, but only shown on an individual. And if somebody really says, okay, I need to improve something on a particular qualification, they can drill down to the training view, from where they can see the different topics, the different qualifications, showing also what are the different items in the LMS that can help me to increase my proficiency. And we also include the real life data from the LMS on how or where they are with that training. drilling further down, they will exit the matrix and move into the course homepage on the LMS to really, I mean, take it through to the entire end and launch the training immediately from there, after which also the information is immediately updated in the matrix. Again, we don't have the time today to really go in depth, but obviously that is important to understand a bit how the solution works. So we can obviously help you maybe at a later time to gain some more insights.
Now let's have a look at how the matrix is working. So the basic architecture first. Of course, everything is happening in BTP, which is the Valhalla of every developer. So I think you're all familiar with it. We have a Flexso global account in which we have a provider sub-account, and there all our main components are available. The UI5, Node.js application, which contains Express, and then of course our app router. Now for every customer, we are creating a consumer sub-account in which we subscribe to our application. And of course, we make a trust connection to their IAS or their SuccessFactors to make sure that they have their own secure environment to log into. Also there, we create destinations based on connectivity and destination service to their SuccessFactors environment and to our third-party software, Mailtrap and SendGrid, where we can send mails for testing Mailtrap and for productivity usage SendGrid. Now let's take a look at some specific topics under the hood. So first of all, for the UI, we use Redux, which is a complex, or it's used for state management in a UI or in a client. And we use it because we have a really complex UI binding. We have a lot of data with a lot of calculations. And for us, it was easier to use or to do state management with the help of Redux. So we extended some objects in UI5 to make sure that Redux can properly work with UI5. So one simple example is that the setProperty method is overwritten in the model, and we throw an error where we're like, okay, you can't change anything that way, and that way we enforce that updates are only being done via actions, which is the main way to change something in your state in Redux. Another benefit is that we can use the debug tools that shows us basically our state of our current UI, plain and simple in a big model. And also we can retrace our steps. We can have a look at which actions happened and how the state changed. If there's an issue, you can just check, okay, at that action, that property received the wrong value, and we can check what's happening under the hood. I'm not saying that we're against default UI5 binding, etc. It's just that Redux is another layer that helps us with the complexity of our applications. Next to that, we created something that is called the Flexso Config. It's basically an MDev object that we install or create at each SuccessFactors instance of our customers, and in which we have some properties that the customer can change. So the properties are the same at each customer, but the values can differ. And that will generate another behavior in our applications. So each customer can choose how some of the logic is working in their specific instance. And here we're not using feature flags, we're specifically using an MDev object, because then it's easier for the customer to change it itself. The feature flags we would use to, for example, limit a specific functionality when the customer don't have a license for a specific module, let's say, in the application. Next to that, as we are doing releases in a SaaS environment, we want to communicate with our customers. And this is maybe not so technical for the application itself, but it's a handy tool that helps us to communicate with our customers. So we are using the open source Docusaurus. It's based on React, and it gives us the possibility to generate documentation based on Markdown files, which is really easy because you can go from a ticket in GitLab that is already created in Markdown to documentation and just copy and paste the parts that are interesting to communicate to the customers. So that's a really nice tool for us. And we are also using it in combination with another tool called Mermaid, which is, let's say, an extension or a library that you can use. And it's supported by Docusaurus, but also by GitLab. and it gives the possibility to create graphs and diagrams in Markdown files. So again, really easy for us to generate documentation and to generate GitLab tickets and let them work together, let's say. Now, we also have some technical challenges. First of all, we communicate a lot with LMS, and I don't know if there are any LMS developers in the room, but the APIs of LMS are not always, let's say, the most popular ones. In reality, we have to use the reports built in SuccessFactors or in LMS to generate CSV files that are dumped on an FTP. Which we can then read to incorporate that data inside of our applications. And the thing there is, first of all, it's not real time. You're not going to schedule a report every 2 minutes. That's impossible. So it's never real time. And also there are some limitations. If the report is too big, you can't read it out, or you can't let it run. So if you have one report at one customer with more data, it can be that it works at customer X, but not at customer Y. So it's not so stable for us, and it would be nice if there were a lot more APIs and better API management in LMS. Next to that, we have a BTP region management. So as I said, we have provider tenants, and we have some for several regions, and we always have to keep our BTP tenant as close as possible to the SuccessFactors data center. Because we do a lot of communication between our middleware, our BTP environment, and SuccessFactors and LMS. And if it's too far from each other, you will get weaker performance, let's say. So we have to create several tenants, and then for example, you can have a tenant that you specifically created for one customer because they are at the other side of the world, but then you're a bit missing the point of having a SaaS extension. Now we know that it's maybe something we can enhance by using Schema, where we can combine different regions together, but it's something that we're still investigating and looking at how we can do this in a more practical way. Then, of course, we do some cache management inside our application. So some calls to SuccessFactors we don't want to repeat every time that the customer is logging in, because the data doesn't change so frequently. And at this point, we are doing it inside of our application. So it also consumes Cloud Foundry runtime memory at this point. And we're realizing that it's not the best way to go forward. So it's also something on our roadmap to check, can we use like a Redis caching server, or something else. It's something that we are looking into. So if you have any suggestions, feel free to drop them in the chat. The same with the BTP region management. Any ideas there, feel free to drop them in the conversation. And then, like Bart said, all our data is inside of SuccessFactors, inside the MDF database data model. And there are a lot of advantages. It's close to the customer. You can do some reporting inside of SuccessFactors, so it's nice to do it that way. But there are sometimes also limitations. We have limitations based on the APIs of SuccessFactors, with maximum amount of entities that we can read, and so on and so further. And then the last part on automated testing is something that we're not really doing at this point, and that's a challenge on our roadmap to incorporate it in an application with a lot of code that already exists, and to do it in such a way that it can work in a multi-tenant environment with several configurations per customer. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Thomas. So essentially, to summarize up, I see we see an increasing focus on skills-driven organizations, which obviously also helps to sell more of these type of solutions. We see also more emphasis on innovation coming from a partner IP perspective, hence also the big investments that we are doing as a partner. And obviously, as Thomas mentioned, in some cases, due to the complexity of the solutions, we need to be very creative in either the way that we solve this, but also in the way that we approach these things with our customers. So that has taken us through to the end of this presentations. Happy to converse with you at the, let's say, on an offline basis. The slides will be provided, and I think, Caroline, maybe if there are any questions so far, we can happily answer them.